Good afternoon, everyone. It's Graham Raper here from R&G Health and Safety Coaching. Welcome to episode 2 in relationship to your health and safety program and processes that are involved in there. So this session we're going to concentrate on activity reports. Just a wee bit of background, just you'll see there, just our background, and we're still very proud that our clients have still continuing to manage the zero harm that that's put up there, and as each day goes by, obviously that increases. But this is, and certainly the clients themselves will be very pleased they don't have lost time injuries. So what we're going to talk about today is the activity report. So what is an activity report? Why do we need one? And how to use it effectively. The third point is the one that is very important. We'll talk about that after, as we go on. So an activity report, what we've designed here is one document does a number of tasks. Now, the Health and Safety at Work Act, particularly the old Act, had documents for Africa. I want to be determined. You had all sorts of things you had to write down and follow and tick and cross out and so on. The new Health and Safety Act enables people to utilise systems that actually make sense, that are a useful document. And when you read through all the various documents, they all follow a similar trend. It's the who, what, where, how, why, and what did you do about it processes. So we've just made one document, front and back, single page, that encompasses those requirements. Where it fits within the health and safety compliance is it's a document of evidence. So it provides something, if questioned, an evidence base to say, yes, we did this, or yes, we thought about this, or whatever it might be. The fact is that you thought about it and did something about it, and maybe doing something meant you didn't need to do anything, is the most important part of the Act. So it's a simple tool, and it's related to record any activity that's related to health and safety. So the document itself, as I said, does about 12 jobs. So when you have a meeting, minor injuries and those types of things, you may find that you may only use it 3 or 4 times a year when you have a meeting to discuss some health and safety issues. Other industries might find they have 3 or 4 documents a week come through that need to be recognised. So why is it important? It's a record, and it's a requirement that demonstrates that you're actually taking care of business, that you're implementing your health and safety processes. So having a document set on a shelf does not meet any kind of standards of implementation. So these activity reports are a record of any actions you've undertaken and, of course, any outcomes from those actions. But remembering also that an action may be just the fact that you've thought about it and made a note about it. And that, well, actually, no, there's no risk here, but we did think about it. And it's providing that body of evidence in the event of something going wrong, or an event of an investigation by WorkSafe, as IRD do from time to time, and just saying what do you have in place and how are you managing it. So we just, the team here have just cut up the activity report just to make it easier on a few slides to describe what they are and how to use them. So the top of the thing has a number and a date. The number may be you have a numbering system, a document numbering system within your organisation. You can use it in that way. The most important thing, of course, is to have a date on it. Now, the activity report can be used for any of those listed items. And if you're not sure of a listed item, you just add an other. You get a common question, what's a JSA or an SSSP? It's a terminology used, it's a job safety analysis or site-specific safety plan. And that's quite difficult to say if you've got a mouthful of lunch. But seriously, industries use them all the time, and builders, contractors, everybody uses them. But what they are is a method or a process of analysing any risk before you undertake any work. So you can use this document for doing that, particularly if it's a minor job or something that's relatively short. If you are doing a job that takes 2 or 3 days, within your health and safety systems, you'll find a larger JSA SSSP document, which has more detail. But the more the risk, the more the detail. But everyday use for a JSA, this is all that's required. So obviously the location of where it is you may be, that might be within a building or outside. The people involved. Now, they are the people involved in any part of what you're talking about. So if you're having a meeting, then record all the people that are at the meeting. If you injure yourself and it's a minor injury, if you have somebody else there that's putting the sticking plaster on, if you're lucky enough. So anybody that's involved, it's really important to do that. Again, it demonstrates that people are involved and are working to ensure safe practices. And the person writing the document or recording the document, just a process part that someone needs to take responsibility for taking the minutes of a meeting or writing up a document, for example. Then further down the page is the risk management. Now, this obviously you only use if a risk is involved. So if you're using it for a meeting, you don't need to fill this bit out at all, just put a line through it. But if you're assessing a risk, this is where you'd fill that piece in. So you may be deciding to work on the roof of the house, and all you have to do is climb up to retrieve something to come back down again. Or you could use that in writing up that you only are there for a very short time, the roof is dry, you've got somebody holding a ladder, you've got the appropriate ladder, and you've decided that's all that's required to manage that risk, which is more than reasonable. You don't have to go out and buy scaffolding. Obviously, if you were looking at doing a major roofing job, you could use this to think about how and what systems you may ask your builder or somebody else or the builder themselves to utilise. So it's again just using a document to focusing on risk. Really important to understand we're not focusing on hazards. And that can become complicated if you think about hazards, because everywhere we go, there's a hazard. I'm a hazard in the environment every time I wake up and go to work in a day. We're all in those kind of situations, and if we look at it that way, we'd never achieve anything. What we're really wanting to know is what are the risks? What will hurt me or hurt somebody else, and how do I manage that? And that's why down the bottom there, it's just a simple way of measuring the risk. So how likely is it to happen? So if you're up on the roof for 2 or 3 minutes, it's low risk. If you're up there all day, obviously the likelihood of falling off is higher. The potential falling from a roof will hurt, doesn't matter how long you're up there. So that consequence would be high. So low and high would give it a medium rating, for example. It's just a guide to help focus on what do I need to manage and how is the best way to manage it. Remember, managing risk is proportional to the amount of time and energy and cost that it involves. So again, the roof example, if you're going up there for 2 or 3 minutes to do a job, you're taking all roof you get, not wet roof and so on, that's appropriate. If you're up there all day, it would be appropriate to have some means of fall arrest. So if you did fall, you're not going to hit the ground. Have seen many fall arrest systems where they have the rope that's too long and they still hit the ground before the rope takes up anyway. So it is about understanding what you're trying to achieve. So there's, as you go on, so if you had a meeting, for example, you describe the points that you raised in a meeting. If it was, we'll take the roof example again, you might put in there that the roof was dry, you're wearing appropriate footwear, you've got somebody holding the ladder, and things like that. That just as a very simple example. The bigger the risk, obviously, the more controls you need to put in place. Now, further action required, again, that depends on what it is that you're writing here about. If it's a near miss, and we just put one up on Facebook, which we'd encourage everybody to have a look at our Facebook page, when a bucket just about falls on somebody. Now, that is a near miss, and that person was millimetres away from losing their life. But a near miss is something that happens to you where you suddenly think, man, that could have really hurt, it could have gone wrong. And that's a near miss. And you write that up. Now, the reason we write those up, for example, is we look for trends. So if you're having a series of near misses following in the same way, and it's repeated, well, then we need to think about what's going on here and how can we reduce and turn that near miss into a no miss. Well, not a no miss, it's the wrong way around, but you know what I mean, is that we don't want to become a no miss. But a near miss on itself doesn't necessarily mean anything, it's just something to think about. But during your meeting, you might have discussed some things that you want to ensure take place from a health and safety perspective. This is where you'd take further action required, and you would write that further action in there. What are the next steps? What's required? So, if you're a landlord, for example, you might be saying to your rental property management company, you have an expectation that this occurs on the property. If you're a builder and one of the staff have said that there's a faulty ladder or faulty something, they're wanting further action required, you would put there on a near miss. Obviously, if there's any learnings that we could be shared. So you use the document in a way that best suits your needs. And the final part is the sign-off. Now, this is a key component, that the sign-off basically says that you reviewed it. It's a review of the document and that somebody has taken the time to read them and ensure that if there's any actions that have been undertaken, any learnings have been shared and so on, and date them. So that's all there really is to an activity report. And you'll see if you take any example and you follow that process, it becomes quite easy to follow. Now, we're not worried about what's written in there. We're not worried about the spelling. We're not worried about grammar. If you draw a picture, it's fine. What it is a way of you recording any actions that you've taken or any questions or meetings that you may have had to discuss anything related to health and safety. Just in the conclusion, and why do we have, and it goes back to the first question, why an activity report? It's a simple legal premise. If it's not written down, it has not happened. You can argue to officials over and over and over again that this was done and that was done, and I saw so-and-so do this and I saw so-and-so do that, or we did this or we did that. If you haven't written it down, it has not happened. There is no evidence of you ever having taken any kind of care, any consideration in relationship to health and safety. This is why a number of recent prosecutions have taken place where companies have had documentation sitting on their shelves, but there was no evidence that they actually put those policies and processes and actions in place. A very simple form such as the one that we have here that you're able to utilise is all that's required to be able to demonstrate that you're thinking about health and safety, but more importantly, you're thinking about the well-being of those that are working with you, for you, around you. It also helps to demonstrate and focus on members of the public or other people that may be involved in any kind of business-related activity. So that's why it's so important. So if it's not written down, it hasn't happened. And the team here, if they were talking to you and asking you for these documents and you haven't got anything at all, expect a severe telling off, because it's very, very important. It provides the focus. It enables evidence to be provided to ensure that at the end of the day, what we're all trying to achieve is nobody gets harmed because of what we do or don't do. So from here on in, the team will send a bit more information and the process about engaging our services. But certainly feel free to give us a call on the numbers there, 03 99 1403, or email at support@rghs. More than happy to answer any questions and queries you may have and helping to ensure at the end of the day that people go home unharmed.